Hey, welcome to Alchemy TV. Chris Ward here with AbundantYogi.com. Before the next 60 seconds is up, you're going to know exactly why you're watching this and what it will do for you. So here we go. You're here because you're a wellness professional, coach, or heart-centered entrepreneur, and you want to do what you love without burning out or selling out and still have your work fund your lifestyle of choice. I've created Alchemy TV to help you fulfill that desire, to take you behind the scenes with some of the bravest, clearest, most successful entrepreneurs on the planet who've made nothing short of magic happen in their life and career. These alchemists have three unmistakable things in common. Number one, they're creatively alive and deeply connected to their own heart, which connects them to the hearts of others. Number two, they are doing work that they love and making a huge impact. Number three, they are here to design a life, not just make a living. Today we'll reveal the latest highlights of their most important work and discoveries, plus what they've learned along their own path of lucrative self-realization and lifestyle design. The quest you and I have in common with them to do what we want, when we want, with whom we want, most of the time, while still offering our greatest contribution to the world. There's always a bit of alchemy underlying a quest like that, so that's what we're here to explore and tease apart together, so that you can grab some tips on how to practice alchemy in your own life and business in your flavor and style. Here we go. I am so psyched for this interview. It's going to be an especially exciting episode on Alchemy TV today with the one and only Laura Roeder of LKRsocialmedia.com. She is a good friend of mine. She was actually there in Paris the day I found out that I was preggers with my now 13-month-old baby boy, Rhythm. And I will give you a really quick intro, short bio of Laura, and then we are going to jump in and soak up all of her amazingness. So, Laura Roeder, beyond just being a dear friend of mine and a total inspiration, this beauty you see here before you is a social media marketing expert. So not my area, which is why I always love learning everything I can from Laura. She teaches small businesses how to become well-known and claim their brand online. She's the creator of LKR Social Media Marketer and Creating Fame, her flagship program. She's also the author of Facebook Fame, the Facebook marketing Bible for the small business. Just last year, I'm so stinking proud of this, Laura was named one of the top 100 entrepreneurs under 30 and was invited to speak at the freaking White House. So we're going to talk about that. I can't wait to hear more about it. But Laura, so glad you're here. Thanks for being here, sister.
Thank you. It's so fun to chat with you.
Yeah. So goodness gracious, so much time has passed since we've really caught up. We used to be mastermind buddies and keeping each other accountable every Monday. But things have changed a lot since then, and I'm excited to catch up with you and a little bit of business, a little bit of personal. But first, we'll talk about business. So over the last year, you have made some huge changes in your business. You've gone from offering multiple training courses to offering one main course, your signature course, Creating Fame, and then offering everything else through a membership community, social media marketer. And as you and I were talking just a minute or two before we started, you officially have all of your staff full-time W-2s now, which is huge. So can you share a bit about all of these changes and what led to the change and how the implementation has supported your lifestyle design, how that was really what was driving all of this?
Yeah. So I made a lot of changes in 2012. That's when I hired all my previous contractors as full-time employees. July 2012 is when we made the big switch to combine all of our previous programs into one program, Social Media Marketer. And I am very, very, I'm very, very lifestyle driven in my business. I've never been a all-nighter, work all day, kill it type of person. I'm business, so that I can have a life that I enjoy. And it's also just not in my nature, the pounding, keep going, definitely does not work for me. I think does not work for probably most people, actually.
Well, you wouldn't know it by how much you get done.
Well, so this is the thing, right? I do get a lot done, and my business gets a lot done. And I always say, you only have 24 hours a day, and you probably don't want to spend all of them working. So if you want to add more 24 hours, you have to add other humans that have their own 24 hours.
Yes.
That's how that math works. So I'm definitely not afraid to get help. I love seeing what I can hire out. And I love having a team of employees. It's a small team, and sometimes people say, is that stressful, knowing that you have to employ people? For me, it's not stressful at all, because for me, that's one of the most fun parts of running a business. When you have a truly dedicated team, you can get so much stuff done, and you have this whole crew working towards the same goal. And it's a really powerful thing. And I think that can be done, whether you have a VA, whether you just have some freelancers. I think it's more of a mindset thing and how you approach it. So many people end up like the monkey in the middle between all their freelancers,
Right.
where the freelancers never talk to each other.
Right.
And it's always you. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can have, weekly team calls, even with occasional freelancers, where you're all checking in on what you're doing. That kind of stuff is really, really important.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a sidebar. So as far as the programs go, I know a lot of people watching will be able to identify with this. When you're in the world of creating online courses, when you've been doing it for a few years, often you're creating new ones all the time, especially what I'm doing in social media. We're always adding more.
Yeah.
And also the whole model of create something new and sell it and get a good bump in your income, is always exciting for people to have a new program. But you do that for a few years, and then you're left with this, collection or mess
Yeah.
of all these different programs that you've created. And for us, a lot of it was a matter of, we had been very intentional in how we created the program, so it wasn't necessarily messy in that they were disjointed. They were a nice collection. But if you want to do your marketing well, you have marketing sequences for all your different programs.
Right.
You have the email sequence, and you have the opt-in, and it just started to feel way too big for us. We're a small company, and it's like we're managing all these different parts of all these different programs, and it was getting confusing for our customers the more programs we added. Because people come to us because we know about social media, right? They're like, I don't know if I should be on Twitter or Facebook. You tell me.
Yeah.
You're the expert. Yet we were asking them to choose which program they bought, which didn't really make sense, right? They wanted us to advise, what do you need to do next? So that's really how we came to the decision. What if instead of having all these different programs that you have to buy one off, we just had a library model where you just pay a flat rate, monthly, yearly, whatever, and then you have unlimited access to all the courses that you want to take. So you can take just one, you can take 10, it's on your own pace, whatever you need for your business.
Wow. So that seems like it'd have to be a pretty spendy program to get access to all of that.
It's $100 a month. So
that's a ton of value. $100 a month?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's a lot cheaper than our courses used to be, because we used to charge at least that much for just one course.
Yeah.
So now you get all of them. The only problem is people get a little overwhelmed because there are so many courses. So we're like trying, this is something I'm always figuring out in my business. How can you let people know it's okay to take just one course? You're getting your money's worth. Even if you do just one, you don't have to do all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm curious, do you have some mindset stuff in there weaved in about how to tame that self-saboteur, the one that gets frantic and overwhelmed and shoulds on himself or herself so much about, I should already have this amount done and blah, blah, blah?
Absolutely. That's I think that's something that makes my company unique and why people come to us. Part of our big philosophy is like, it should be fun. It's just social media. Like you're talking to people on Twitter. If you're panicking about it, something has gone wrong.
Totally true.
And I do think that, something that we actively avoid is like, we always stay with positive examples instead of negative examples. So we never say like, oh, you should never do it this way. You're going to ruin your business if you do that. We always say like, here's a model to follow. Like, see if this feels good for you. Because so many people, what's scary about social media is that it's public, right? And people are embarrassed and they're afraid of looking stupid. But you really don't need to be, and you can do it a million different ways. There's not just one way to do social media right. Like, see what's fun for you. You don't have to be on all the sites. That's a big one that I tell people. And actually, it's often better just to be on one site and create a really strong community there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you love Pinterest, maybe you love Facebook. You don't have to try to be running around updating 10 different social media sites.
Right.
So definitely baked in everything we do is like, don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, this should be, I genuinely believe that social media should be a fun way to market your business. Like, you get to share with people, you get to chat with people, and you get leads in for your business at the same time. And if it's becoming this really stressful thing that you hate, I mean,
Right.
you're talking to people, so that comes across.
Right. Yeah, I'm guilty of that myself. I totally am. And social media becoming one of those things that just has to be on the to-do list to make sure we get a post in here and a post in there, and that we're sort of repurposing a lot of our content on a regular basis, and it can get kind of stressful. So just taking the approach that you take to keep it lighthearted, to keep it fun, and only do it if it's fun, you know, find a way to make it fun is so key. Otherwise they'll just stop or they'll hate it.
Yeah, and you know, we also give people a lot of advice about automation, about scheduling, about planning, because that's a really important way to make it a lot less stressful. You can automate this, you can plan this stuff out in advance. You don't need to be spending your time every day figuring out what to do on social media. So for a small business, I think that's essential. I don't know how many small businesses have an extra 3 hours a day, you know, to sit around figuring out what to say on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And so to come back to the lifestyle piece a little bit more here, I'm curious for you, what are some of your non-negotiables, if you will, that are important for you to have in your lifestyle that your business has to allow for, has to provide to you?
Yeah. It's such a juicy question. What are the non-negotiables? I think a huge one for me is time freedom. That's always been a really big priority for me, is that I have full freedom and control over my time. And something that's somewhat unusual about my business in the online space is that my business model does not include coaching and consulting. You know, rarely, like, I'll do a full day consulting day, but I mean, I literally did one in 2012. I'll probably do one in 2013. You know, I do them just for fun if there's somebody that I really like.
Yeah.
Because I don't especially like coaching. It doesn't especially light me up. It's all right. It's not my, you know, what I love to do in this world. And I love just having that full flexibility over my schedule. Like, look at my calendar, having nothing that I can't change. You know, I mentioned in the past year, well, I guess I mentioned this to you. I guess I haven't said this on the interview, that I've been traveling for a year. And I last year, I literally didn't know what country I'd be in next week, you know, and I love that. I love having that freedom.
Yeah.
So that's a really important one to me. And really just anything about time are the most important ones to me. You know, I love to be able to spend time doing whatever I want in the middle of the day. You know, my husband's also self-employed. We can go to yoga. We can go see a movie if we're like feeling cranky and not getting any work done. You know, go take a walk, go have like a really nice long lunch together. All these things are little things that really improve my quality of life and are really.
Yeah, and I remember, because I was at the, where was I? I was at the credit union when we were opening a new business account there, and I was on the phone with you. It was a while ago because it was before you got married. And I think it was when you had just recently met your now husband. And I remember us having the conversation. You were somewhere in another country. Or you had just gotten back, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, it was right after you met him. So where was it that you met him again?
In Argentina, in Buenos Aires.
It was right after that. And you were telling me how he had inspired you and how his lifestyle and his freedom and his business had sort of been this wake-up call for you. And you were telling me there's big changes coming because I'm having to redo my lifestyle design plan. And I was so excited just to hear about that and to see you yet again walking the talk and making it happen.
Yeah, and this is where all the little details add up. You know, like I said, having a lot of programs made the business more difficult. Well, it's harder to have that full-time freedom when there's so many moving parts in your business.
Yeah.
It's not just not doing coaching, but it's also for what we are doing. How can we simplify? How can we streamline? How can we make this feel a lot more ease for everyone involved?
Right. And, my husband, Craig, is rereading the EMyth right now. Do you remember that book? Did you ever read it?
Definitely.
It's so on that same tip of, your business owns you if you don't fully own it and have that full automation and can remove yourself from it whenever you choose to. So I totally agree with that. Something I recently did that I so enjoyed, and I was inspired by my friend Jonathan Mead to do it, is that I did my own visionary quest where I got reconnected to my core desired feelings and uncompromising principles and sort of, why I'm doing this business in the first place and how I can make sure that the way that I'm doing my work fully aligns with not only my lifestyle design plan, but who I am at my core and my guiding values. Mm-hmm. And so this is fresh in my mind. I just did it last week. I'm actually writing a blog post on how I answered all of those self-reflective questions now. But as I was digging around on your site, getting ready to talk to you today, I came across your statement of purpose and your guiding values, which some of them are hilarious. I'm going to read them out in just a second. But I can see how these are guiding you and these are, helping you steer the ship of your business. So I'm going to read them out, and then we can maybe talk about the process of how you decided on these and how you use them as a filter and how your team is made aware of these and how it helps you steer the ship of your business. Mm-hmm. So first, your statement of purpose. Everything we do empowers our customers, our partners, and our team. Work is an enjoyable way to provide income to our families and spend our time in a way that is innovative, fun, and ultimately boosts up others. I mean, that's a completely different definition of work than most people have. So that is huge. That's your statement of purpose. And then your guiding values are empowerment, trust, positivity, respect, dorkiness, integrity, smarts, fun, optimization, and whimsility. Is that even a word? What is whimsility?
Whimsility is not a word. I think Jules came up with that one. It was like whimsy and humility, maybe? I'm trying to remember.
Or utility? Maybe it's humility and utility and whimsical all put together.
Whimsy wasn't quite right because whimsy felt a little too up here for us. Yeah. Our team's more grounded. Mm-hmm. So whimsility felt just right. Sort of a dorky whimsy, I guess you could say.
Which is so you, but also getting shit done. Like that. That's Roeder.
Yeah.
So what was your process for putting your statement of purpose and your guiding values together, and how do you check back in with them, to actually ensure that they are helping you in your decision making?
Yeah. So, something I'm actually just realizing as you're asking me these questions is that I am very inside out focused, like inside first.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like we really take our team values and then translate that to our customers, translate that to the external of our business. And I think you can do it either way. I think some people are very, very customer focused where they think first, okay, what's the experience I want to create for the customer, and then translate that to the inside of the business. Mm-hmm. So I think it can work either way. But it's interesting to me just how much focus I did put on like what work means for the team, what our jobs mean, because that's something very, very important to me that I think, since I serve small businesses, it's like if we're having fulfilling work on the inside, then the small businesses that we teach can have fulfilling work as well. And the way that we came up with the guiding values, we did it as a team. And at an in-person retreat, my team is all virtual. Everybody works from home, but we have a fun retreat once a year. I would like to maybe do twice a year. So far, it's been once a year where we all get together. The last one was in Manhattan at the Ace Hotel, like super gorgeous, sweet, really, really fun. And by the way, if you ever feel like it's too expensive to do a retreat, like just check out how much 1 month of rent is at a normal office. Like, I think we take for granted as virtual businesses, like how much money we save.
Yeah.
You can spring for a retreat. Most people are spending thousands and thousands every month for overhead.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to spring for that. So, at the retreat, we spend a lot of time discussing like, what is our DNA as a company? Like, who are we? What's really important to us? And that's where those guiding values came out of. And, things like dorkiness, like the people on our team are all really different, but we're all super dorky. We're like, what do we have in common? I think that's it. We have a Yammer that we use to communicate internally. It's full of like weird and obscure jokes, and I try to tell my husband about them, and he's just like gives me this look like, okay, well, we think it's funny on our team. It's funny. So those guiding principles, like, they help guide, how we hire, who we work with for contractors, and what kinds of customers we want to have as well. Because I find that our customers, although they're all different, and especially for me, because I'm not in one of those businesses where, my customers are women in their 20s, who live urban lifestyles. Like, our customers are way, way more diverse than that. Our customers are really all over the board in age. We have more women, but we have men and women, all different industries. So it tends to be more of a shared philosophy that draws in our customers. Our customers view work in the same way that we do, and lifestyle design is super important to them. So I think as a company, when you have that integrity of how you operate internally, it just like magically shows up in everything you do.
Yeah, that's huge. And then the people that you do attract are so much more fun to work with.
Yeah.
Because they're on your same page, and they don't care about the stuff you don't care about, but they do care about the stuff that you do care about. And that's a huge energy conservation.
It is. I'm always amazed, like for Creating Fame, we have a Facebook group where we all hang out, everybody in Creating Fame, and everybody's so cool. Like, everybody in the Facebook group are people that I would want to hang out with. And I'm always surprised because I'm like, it's not like we do any vetting. I mean, anyone can join the program that wants to. But it's just super fun to hang out in the Facebook group. Yeah. And that's what happens when you get clear on and you live these values in your business.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we'll do a few more practical tips, especially on social media, because I want to pull out some quick and easy ones that will be super helpful for everybody. And then we're going to talk a little bit about productivity and prioritization secrets, because you're so amazing at that, and you always make it look so effortless. Okay, so how about share just a couple key things that would help our predominantly non-techie audience to become well-known with social media? Simple basics.
Yeah, so one of the most important things that kind of relates to what we were just talking about is you have to create content. I mean, that's the one that I think is a non-negotiable. So creating content, I mean, shows like this, I mean, blogging. Without content, people can't know who you are. It's like we just said, you have your values in your business, but you have to have some way to communicate those to other people. Mm-hmm. And getting known as the expert in your industry, you have to give people something to go by.
Right.
know that you're the expert. Now, the making it easier part, you don't have to create every type of content. And in fact, you shouldn't. You should focus on what's really fun for you and what you really love to do. And actually, for me, I love doing interviews. Like, I love chatting with people. This is really easy for me. Yeah. I don't have to do any prep, right? I just show up and talk. And interviews have been a really great way to grow my business and make myself known as an expert.
Yeah.
Some people, being on camera is like a nightmare for them, And maybe they're not going to do video interviews. Maybe they'll do podcasts. Maybe they'll write articles for other people's blogs. But I think it's really important. Stick to what works. Like, I always
trust your DNA.
Yeah, you don't have to do video. People stress out. Like, I encourage everybody to try video because I think it's a great way for people to connect with you. But if it is just a nightmare for you, no one's gonna fall in love with you.
No, that won't be very fun to watch.
Right. So first of all, like, just take take the pressure off. Do what you're great at. Do it consistently. You don't need to blog multiple times a week. Like once a week is fine. You definitely don't need to blog multiple times a day. Nobody has time to read that many blog posts. So do the schedule that works for you. A few times a week would be the most, I would say, for any small business. And that's when you've reached a level where maybe, you have a bigger business. And a little tip on that, if you look at my blog, you'll see something that we do is we run a lot of guest posts.
Yeah.
And we have regular contributors who write for us. And these contributors are not paid. They get great exposure from our blog. They're great matches. We share the same audience. They get customers from the articles that they write. So it's a great win-win for both of us.
Yeah.
Now we have regular high-quality content that we don't have to pay for, that serves our audience. So that's another little tip in your content is get creative on how can you go beyond having to do everything yourself. Another thing that we've just started doing inside of our programs, if you're a member of Social Media Marketer, you'll start to see in more and more of our programs, we're adding behind-the-scenes interviews with our team. Because something else sort of unique about us is, we practice what we preach. And whenever we're teaching you a social media strategy, we show you how we personally use it, how it's worked for us. So we've just been getting on Skype, doing interviews. We did one with our customer service person for our email marketing course. Like, what do we do when email goes wrong, when we get a bad response, when people unsubscribe? So we just went straight to the source. Like, Stacy, customer service, how do you handle this?
Yeah.
Interviews with our project manager and our content manager. So it's so easy and fun for us to create. We're just chatting with each other. And people love it so much because it's such a juicy look inside the business.
Yeah, and they feel included and they feel so blessed just to have you pull back the curtain and share in such an honest way, like no smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
And another little social media tip I'd like to share. This one is a tool that is one of my favorites. There's a website called Buffer, Buffer, and Buffer allows you to automatically share cool stuff that you're finding around the web with your social media audience. So automatically update your Twitter, your Facebook, or whatever you use. So the way that Buffer works is kind of cool because it's not a typical scheduling. You don't have to choose, okay, this is going to go out Tuesday at 6 a.m. The way that Buffer works is you just put everything in one big queue, and as you find content on the web, it gets added to the bottom of the queue, and then you set how often it goes out. So it goes out, twice a day at these times or once a day, and then it just pulls from your queue. So as I browse the internet and read interesting blog posts, I just hit a little button to add it to my Buffer. And now, without having to do anything live, I know that I have a regular stream of interesting content that's being sent out to my audience. So that one is free, super easy.
That's really cool. And I'm curious, what's the ratio of you putting out your own content versus you promoting other cool content that somebody else wrote that you put your stamp of approval on and suggest to people to take a look at?
Yeah, we actually do have a really clear formula that we use for that I would recommend. And we do a mix of 3 different things. We have our own content, somebody else's content, and then we have a question or something, sort of a discussion starter.
Okay.
That's really important on social media as well. So we just cycle through 1, 2, 3, and we literally just put them in order in our Buffer. So you can go in and you can rearrange things. I mean, you don't even have to do that. It's okay if you have more questions one day and more of somebody else's content another day. That's totally fine. You don't need to overthink it.
Don't freak out. Don't freak out. It doesn't have to be perfect.
But we like to just go in and reorder, and we just literally do 1, 2, 3. Link to our blog or link to one of our sales pages or something like that, link to somebody else's article, and then a little question to get a response.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And then digging into Roeder's world a little bit more around the productivity and prioritization piece, any productivity prioritization secrets that you can share with us that you just can't do without? Your business wouldn't run as smoothly as it does if you didn't do these.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I love that I think is really useful is coming up with themes for everything. So my company loves using themes, and we found that the more areas we can find to apply this concept to, the smoother they run. So one example of a theme is to have a topic theme for your newsletter. Okay. So in January, you're going to talk about stretching. In February, you're going to talk about diet. In March, you're going to talk about muscle building. And now you have your topics for your newsletter. It makes it so much easier.
That's brain dead, but it's awesome. I love the brain dead simple stuff.
It's so simple. So, you can do that for your blog, you can do that for your newsletter, and your audience loves it too, because it gives them like something to latch on to, like, okay, next week I know she's going to write about this. This was a really great, tip about muscle building, so I'm looking forward to next week as well. And then they can make it their focus. Like this is so random, but someone who I saw using this, Lauren Conrad, she's like a reality TV star, and she has her own web portal and books and stuff. Okay. And she gives like diet, health, fitness advice, and she does every month you eliminate something. Like you do a little cleanse, like in January you have no sugar, in February you have no caffeine, you have no gluten in March. And so it's a fun program for her readers to go through, and now she knows what to talk about all month. You know, so if March is no gluten month, you're giving gluten-free recipes, you're talking about how it affects your body. It just makes it so easy.
Simplification, it seems to be your theme this year. Simplification that leads to more freedom.
Absolutely. And so we also do this on the inside of our business. So as far as prioritizing and getting stuff done, we actually do quarterly themes and we do monthly themes for what we want to focus on. So to give you an example, this quarter is our lead gen quarter. So as far as what we're focusing our energy on this quarter, it's all of our lead gen activities. Okay. So in January, we decided to focus on webinars. And we actually didn't even, what's sort of interesting is I don't think we maybe had one live webinar in January. So this doesn't necessarily mean you're doing a lot of webinars, although it could. You could make that part of your theme, is we're going to do webinars every week this month. But it was really more examining all the processes behind it. So this is what I call front burnering your back burners. You always have those back burners. It's really hard to ever get them done. These monthly themes front burner your back burners. So for us, for webinars, we had stuff like old webinars that we'd done. They would have a thank you page that wasn't quite right, didn't quite make sense anymore, or just looking through the thank you emails. Maybe we want to improve them based on what we've learned. So it gives you that focus, like this month we're just going to clean up and figure out everything that has to do with webinars. And
that's so cool. And it makes everything so deliberate versus just like, what's on the to-do list for today?
Exactly. It was actually amazing to me how well this has worked. Like how many little pieces you don't realize get constantly backburnered and that you never ever fix. And, with an online business, it is important because people come in from everywhere. So what to you is some old teleseminar that you did a year ago. Well, that's somebody's first impression of you.
Right.
So when it's broken, when it doesn't work anymore, like that, it doesn't look very good. So it is important to be doing this cleanup process all throughout your business. Yeah. So quarterly themes, monthly themes, super easy way to make sure that focus happens.
Wow. I love that. And now, White House. Tell us, how did it go? What was this? I mean, what an honor. How did the whole thing go? Give us behind the scenes.
It was an incredible honor. So the first little tip I want to give, because this is one of my biggest things I talk about in creating fame. Okay. So I was named a top 100 entrepreneur under 30. And so people are like, how did you get that? How did you get on the list? Yeah. That's how I got on the list. I applied for the list. This is the biggest thing we talk about in creating fame. Like most of these opportunities, you actually submit yourself. You apply. You submit for that panel at that conference or that award or whatever. And you're never going to win the award if everybody who won had to put in their own application.
Yes.
So that's like the first most important tip is I found out about this. But that's where the mindset stuff comes in, because something that's really interesting that we talk a lot about in creating fame, it's not like these opportunities aren't out there. It's that we literally just filter them out, often without even realizing it. Because we think, well, I'm not a top 100 entrepreneur, obviously. it never even enters our view that we could apply for that. So that's where you have to get your mind right, because you have to be in that point of view that, okay, maybe it's totally a long shot. I don't think I'll ever get it, but I'll apply for it.
Yeah.
Why not? I didn't think I could get it.
Yeah. I will brag. I recently applied to speak at TEDx because I just started doing that here in the Charleston area. I did not get accepted, but I will be damned if I was not so proud of myself for applying. I had an awesome conversation with the woman when she called me, and I did make the first cut, but obviously didn't end up getting invited to speak. But I learned so much in just taking that step. I learned so much more about TED and TEDx and how it works, and the local organization, and how I could maybe volunteer for that, and other ways to look for similar opportunities that I would love to do.
I'm so glad you brought up that story. That's such a great point. And, something else I always say is every opportunity comes from another human. Mm-hmm. Every opportunity has to be from relationships. That's the only way. That's how things happen. So you'll find, often when you backtrack stuff in your business, that it's these weird little, you chatted with somebody and they introduced you to this person, and even the top 100 entrepreneurs. I can't remember now who sent it to me, but a friend did send it to me. Or maybe it was just that a friend had posted on Facebook and I saw it, Yeah. So I applied, I was accepted, and then I got to go for the award. It was a partnership with the White House to promote entrepreneurship in America. And they actually have done some really amazing work. Like, this organization helped to pass a student loan forgiveness bill for entrepreneurs. So if you start your own business, you might be able to have a little more leeway in paying back your student loans, which I think is a really, really cool initiative. So they had different Congress people and stuff like that talk about entrepreneurship. And then another place I raised my hand. So then when they did the actual award ceremony at the White House, they said, we're going to have a few people talk just really briefly, just 3 minutes, what entrepreneurship means to them. It's going to be broadcast live on whitehouse.gov. Who would like to do that? So I'm like, I want to do it. So again, I told them I was interested, and then I got to give this great little talk about why entrepreneurship is important for me and for young people in America. And now I can say that I spoke at the White House, which is so, so amazing. And Barack was not there. It's another common question. Did you get to meet Obama? But they did send me, I thought this was really funny. I got a thank you note from Obama.
Oh, cool.
Afterwards, signed by the robo-signer, where it's signature, but there's a million of them. But what I thought was really funny, so I got the letter, and then I also got this photo of him that was a good-sized photo, maybe a 5x8.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, you have achieved something in your career when you just assume that people want a picture of you when you send them a letter.
How funny.
Imagine if people, wrote into you, and when you responded, you just included, a little headshot of yourself. Yeah.
Here's my signed headshot. Wow.
Maybe someday I'm just going to send photos of myself to people who, obviously the president, he's legit. He gets to do that.
What did you do with the picture?
I can't say that. I think I propped it up in my house. Maybe I put it in the fridge. I've done a lot of moving, so I can't say I have it anymore, but I did cherish it.
Awesome. Okay, well, I want to keep it short and sweet because, time is of the essence, but we will go ahead and wrap it up. Last question, or last two questions I always ask in every Alchemy TV episode. What do you feel is the single most important mindset to employ if you really want to design a life versus just make a living?
I think for me, one of the biggest ones has just been the idea that you can't screw it up. That nothing is permanent, that nothing is irreversible. My team will tell you something that I am amazing at is bouncing back from things going wrong, because things go wrong all the time. And if you can reach that place where you don't take it personally, you're willing to switch gears. I mean, I know that you've blogged publicly about this, which a lot of people are not willing to do. I had this program. I figured out it was totally the wrong direction.
Right.
I totally switched it up.
Right.
I think it's so valuable that you're willing to do that in public, because so many people are so scared to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because they had this idea that people like me and you just perfectly predict the future, and then, we just have our plan and it goes, just how we imagined. And it's not true. And I think embracing that, what, you can't screw it up, like just give it a try, see what happens is so key.
Yeah. You really can't screw it up, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a really massive learning lesson come out of it. There will be huge growth. Way more than you'd ever get from coaching or your therapist. So, yeah. Okay, well, any closing thoughts? Any last, anything you want to share about current projects that you're working on that have got you really excited? And, of course, how our viewers can get more from Laura Roeder.
Yeah, so as I said, simple. So, we have Creating Fame, which if you have resonated with this interview at all, you would probably really, really dig Creating Fame. It's a live program. We offer it every quarter. So you can there's always one that's right for you, whenever you're watching this. And we also have Social Media Marketer, which is really the more specific strategies for social media. So Creating Fame gives you this foundation of how can I become known as the go-to expert online? How can I be business famous? And Social Media Marketer digs into the specifics of here's your strategy for email marketing, for social media automation, for list building on social media, for how to use the specific tools, all that good stuff. And of course, my website is lkrsocialmedia.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. It's been so good to see your gorgeous face and get some more brilliance for social media, which is not a huge strength of mine. And just to, see how you're always walking the talk and doing your lifestyle design plan first, business second.
Yep.
And then just trusting yourself and enjoying that ride. Sometimes bumpy, but enjoying it nonetheless.
Always fun.
Awesome. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.